to wake up in the morning to the quiet of the cove and hear Aunt Bessie talking to herself, and to hear poor Uncle John mumbling wishes to old Nell. It made me feel like everything was fine. I was born down by the water, it's here I'm gonna stay. I've searched for all the reasons why I should go away, but I haven't got the thirst for all those modern day toys, so I'll just take my chances with those saltwater joys. Following a little brook as it trickles to the shore in the autumn when the trees are flaming red, kicking leaves that fall around me, watching sunset paint the hills. It's all I'll ever need to feel at home. This island that we cling to has been handed down with pride by folks who fought to live here, taking hardships all in stride. So I'll compliment her beauty, hold on to my goodbyes, and I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater joys. How can I leave those mornings with the sunrise on the cove and the gulls like flies surrounding Clayton's wharf? Platter's Island wrapped in rainbow in the evening after fog. The ocean smells are perfume to my soul. Some go to where the buildings reach to meet the clouds, where warm and gentle people turn to swarming faceless crowds. So I'll do without their riches, glamour and the noise, and I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater joys. Some go to where the buildings reach to meet the clouds, where warm and gentle people turn to swarming faceless crowds. So I'll do without their riches, glamour and the noise, and I'll stay and take my chances with those saltwater joys.
Good evening and welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight, our stories are update on the Town Council building renovations, the Burgeo Arbor Authority Marine Centre, Remembrance Day. Please stay tuned for these stories after this.
Honesty. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
The renovations on the town office building are going as planned. It is expected that all the work should be completed in about 2 weeks. So far, the side of Stan Coster's office has been completed with new siding and hold and rotten wood replaced. A new door is expected to arrive shortly, and once it is installed, a completion of a new bridge. After all the outdoor work is completed, a few things have to be completed on the inside. We look forward to seeing the finished product. The Burgeo Arbor Authority Marine Center has been granted funding from Small Crafts Arbor to do general maintenance and repairs to the center. This is a 4-week project which hired 2 workers for stamps. These workers were Glenn Hand and Lloyd Skinner. Maintenance and repairs is taking place on the wharf, in front of the wharf, replacing rotten and damaged wood. The electrical shack and the wheel guard will also be worked on. This grant is the only funding that has been given to the Burgeo Arbor Authority in 5 years when work was done in the Remberance Arbor area. No work has been done on the Marine Center in over 30 years. While I was there, I also looked into the debris and other garbage that is being dumped in the drain that is near the center. The Arbor Authority would like for those individuals to please not continue this practice. On November the 11th, the Remembrance Day service was held at the Anglican Church. For this service this year, 11 men from the military came to Burgeo to take part. These men were the soldiers that were on duty when Sergeant Von Hingram was killed. After the church service, all were gathered at the monument where a plaque was unveiled by Mayor George Reed and Linda and Clayton Ingram. This plaque consists of the name of all the casualties of the First and Second World Wars and of Afghanistan that belonged to Burgeo. This plaque was funded by the Veteran Affairs, Municipal Affairs, our MHA, and the town of Burgeo. During the day, I had the opportunity to meet with the soldiers and film them as they remembered Von and that fateful day of August 3rd, 2006.
I guess maybe to start off, just to give people a little broader understanding of what actually is going on over there, what at least I can speak what this task force was there to do. Obviously, we're there to rebuild Afghanistan. We're there to increase the legitimacy of the Afghan government, and you know, obviously a lot of reconstruction and security has to be done. A lot of the forementioned things can't be achieved unless we take care of security first. So that occupied quite a bit of our time. That saw Canada in a more of a combat role than what we've been used to over the past years. In Afghanistan, there obviously remains elements of the Taliban who don't want us there. These are the same elements that harbor organizations such as Al-Qaeda and other insurgent groups. But you know, one of our main tasks was obviously to deal with them and to ensure that they were taken care of, whether it be through force or forcing them to give up in order to create a secure environment for Afghans, and obviously for the rest of the world as well too. Anyone else have anything else to add to that?
No, that's good.
Okay.
You practiced that one?
I did. I'd have written on my shoes, but no. I guess I'll get right into August 3rd. I'll start laying the groundwork for how that day developed. And certainly I know 4 or 5 of us here that were there can certainly add their perspectives in and maybe some of their feelings there. But to set the stage, and forget anything there, remind me fellas, we were tasked to go into Panjwai, which I'm sure a lot of people recognize from the news there. It's a fairly volatile region west of Kandahar city, in the southern part of Kandahar province there. We were tasked to go into the south while other operations were going on to the north to basically clear out the area of Taliban and insurgents. Again, in order to do our best to gain a foothold there and try to get the Afghan people back into their homes in that area there. You know, so we had to make sure it was safe for them to go back in there. August 3rd, the events, I guess, were set in motion, I would say, very early in the morning that day. There was reconnaissance platoon, which I did command at the time. Warren McDonald was my second in command, and we were doing this operation in conjunction with 9 platoon. Their key where Kiwi was and Willie. As well as we were basically attached to the CO as well, to the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Ian Hope was there as well, and some other enablers there, such as artillery, such. We were going to go into the what was referred to as the White School, White School South, as I referred to it, because there's a few of them in the area there. But this school, just so I'm clear, it although you used the name school, it was a school that was its original function, was to provide education for kids and that. But since the Taliban came in, they used obviously fear and intimidation to ensure that no kids went to school there any longer, and they actually had built it up into somewhat of a defensive position, if you will. It certainly isn't the type of school that we here in Canada are used to, such as jungle gyms outside and the bell ringing for recess and stuff like that. It was more or less just a building that they used to fight from. So that's kind of sets the area there. But 9 platoon was in Lavs, reconnaissance platoons and G-wagons, and there was one road leading up to the school, and kind of the way we were going to get this done was have the Lavs go up and basically seize the school after we crossed a small bridge there. And then we'd basically hold the area in the vicinity of the school. That's the long and the short of it. That was how it was supposed to play out. On the initial approach, and certainly you guys were in the Lavs there, we were in behind the Lavs and the G-wagons. As we approached the school, the road leading up to the school, I should say, there was movement picked up in the tree line to the north. And what was there, 12, 15 guys in the tree line? 12, yeah. The Lavs were able to pick them up with their optics, and obviously identified them as an enemy, and that's where the engagement began. I would say that lasted, what, 15, 20 minutes, maybe? It was just, the sun was just starting to peek its head up over the horizon there. Then once that pocket of enemy was taken care of, the Lavs continued up the route towards a small little footbridge, I'll call it. Well, it can hold a vehicle, but just a small little bridge. And that's when the Lav containing Warrant Officer Peterson and his crew hit an IED that ended up killing Corporal Reed there. So that was how the day began from that. Without getting into too many details on that, Corporal Reed and others who were injured were evac from there, and that took quite some time. Lavs were pushed out on the flanks, basically getting eyes on and weapons into the school area there while we were taking care of that, and that's basically just securing the scene while we could take care of the ID threat there. And just as morning came there, between 9 platoon and a few guys from reconnaissance platoon, we pushed up on foot up the road. Obviously, we hit an IED. You know, obviously when the vehicle hits an IED, you're not too sure what lays in behind that, just in case there was more. So we went up on foot, and while there's another IED discovered. My IED, I should explain that. IED stands for improvised explosive device. And quite simply there, it's anything from an old Soviet artillery shell to old landmines, or anything they can basically make blow up with the use of wires and perhaps a cell phone. It's just basically what it stands for, improvised explosive device. Very rudimentary, but effective nonetheless. We came across another one of those, all set up, ready to go. And upon further discovery, we kind of found where those guys were fighting from with the initial contact there. There was an RPG, rocket propelled grenade, the launcher itself, as well as an actual RPG rocket there. In addition, they had some water and rat rations with them there, the little yellow jugs of water there. And there was other pieces there that were evidence that they had quite a few improvised explosive devices out, or they could have. There's definitely enough cause there to believe that there was more laying in the road. So things, I don't want to say ground to a halt, but they definitely slowed up there. You know, it took some time to assess what was going on at that vicinity. At the same time, I know he was out on the left flank there, yeah. Right? He had good eyes in on the school, so they're keeping an eye on the school. We know we would have to go there eventually, but obviously we had to take care of the first scene there first. But got some engineers up to look at the lab, and if I missed a chunk, or sorry, the IED, and if I missed a chunk out of there, please fill me in. But basically what happened next was decided to push the engineer lab up to get their kit out, take care of this IED or whatever the engineers were going to exactly do with it. That's all I remember. And I remember I was walking back to my vehicle, kind of walking back and forth, and this is just my own personal view of it, but the damn lab went up there and it hit another IED, I would say maybe 10 feet from the other one. Yeah. Big explosion goes off there, big black grayish dust cloud there that just completely engulfed the lab. And obviously we were concerned about casualties, but the engineers, Sergeant Vachon was his name, wasn't it? Yeah. Sergeant Vachon, they came out and they actually were fine, which was surprising. Just the amount of smoke and dust there was, you know, hard to believe people can walk out of that, and it basically ripped the transmission right out of the lab. It was quite a mess, but luckily they came out all right. They were good. So it was at that time that we, or I should say, the Colonel decided that it was time to take the school. Obviously, at this point, we've ruled out taking labs up there to get the job done, just based on the threat from the IEDs in the road there. So Vaughn was then acting platoon commander for 9 Platoon, and being reconnaissance platoon commander, the colonel basically told Vaughn and I to get our heads together and come up with a plan how we're going to take the school, obviously on foot. And that was basically my orders there was, you know, grab hold of Vaughn and let's get her done on foot. And so one of the enablers that the CO was going to give us there was, or that he did give us, was the ANP, and that's the Afghan National Police. Those fellows need a lot of work, but you know, it's an extra set of bodies. Initially they were supposed to send 40, then I was told I was getting 20, and then about 15 showed up. So that's usually par for the course with those fellows there. But we're going to talk a little more about that later on. So not only did we have select guys from 9 Platoon, select guys from Reconnaissance Platoon, we had some more bodies there with the Afghan National Police. And I got my head together with Vaughn there, and we talked about the best way to do this. It was very constricting, the terrain. There was basically only one good route up to the school on either side of the road, and it's a little bit hard to explain without a diagram, but you can just imagine kind of almost a funnel into where the school goes. There was basically canals and ditches and ruts and fields all over the place. There was really just 2 avenues of approach on either side of the road, and we'd decided, well, Vaughn, I'll take a crew, we had some A&P, and Vaughn took another crew and some A&P, and we decided we'll go on two avenues of approach instead of just going right up against all of us there. So just to, you know, they tried to do anything funny there, at least they have to shoot at two different things instead of one. So that was the basic plan there. And we had to wait for the A&P to get their act together, and that took a good half hour, 45 minutes anyways. 65-degree heat that day. Pretty hard to describe what that feels like, but you know, I'm sitting in front of a wood stove right now, I'm starting to feel memories of that. Starting to sweat here a bit, but you know, it's with all your gear on there as well too. It's it's certainly very taxing on the body. So anyways, we were waiting for the A&P to get going, and we had a couple interpreters with us as well too. And the process is talk to interpreters, they talk to the Afghanis, and they argue about it for a bit, and hopefully we get them pointed in the right direction. But we started to step off, and I was on the north side of the road, and Vaughn was going to take a group south of the road there, and we'd link up, and then the plan was to push the A&P into the school first to get, it's their country there. They got to go up forward and put basically an Afghan face on it. This is, you know, we're always there to support them, we're there to fight right beside them, but, you know, let's start to get these guys doing their jobs here, right? And it was fine, so we started off, and sure enough, in behind us there was some shooting, and that kind of put a slow to things. And it's very, the hard part to explain there is the fact that it's hard to communicate. You know, we had PDRs and, little personal radios and other heavier radio equipment and that, but you don't always get a good picture of what's going on behind you, even though now we look back on it and it's, you know, hindsight's 20/20 there, I guess, but something was going on to the rear, so you know, we were about halfway up the school, maybe not even that. We put a stop to her and went back and basically linked up with Vaughn, and there was a little contact in behind us there, and there were some enemies in the tree line. And that took a few minutes to sort it out. But in proper fashion, I guess Vaughn and I just were in the ditch talking, and we lit up a smoke, and there's some rounds going around, and thought, well, this kind of puts a slow to our plan there, you know. You know, it's kind of a side one there, but got that squared away, and we started off with the original plan of going up to school on two acts of advance. A&P going to seize the school, will come in to support them. And obviously having appropriate security as we went along. But the A&P actually got into the school. We were in behind them, and it was quiet to some extent, and then a couple rounds went off. It wasn't anything too intense that I remembered. Sure enough, there's a sea of blue running back towards us. The A&P were blue uniforms, and I'm wondering, what the Christ are these guys doing? You know, they're supposed to be out there holding it while we, you know, come in and support them, and they should be going that way instead of this way, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. But we're hunkered down in the ditch there, try and sort these guys out. And basically they said they weren't staying there, they weren't going to the school. And I got onto the radio with the CO, and he said, well, John, he says, you know, we kind of knew this would happen, and I think maybe deep down I did know that they were not as reliable as I, you know, they're not reliable, I guess. And he said, you know, we're going to have to go in there and show them how it's done, and that was basically the CO's words. And I got together with Vaughn and said, well, no surprises there. We got to go in there and show these guys how it's done, the A&P how it's done. And so, yeah, let's go. So we start to move up, and there's a little more shooting going on there, and we were using fire movement to get up to the school, expecting the A&P to come in behind us to support us. But those that didn't hide and stay in the ditch, while we advanced, ran back towards the safe area there. And I saw this going on and thought, well, still got a job to do here. We can't really depend on them. Let's get her done. And all those guys who were dismounted today really was there, and you know, it was an awful slog up there. It's bad enough when you're marching at a slow pace up there, but when you're doing fire movement, it's difficult. Guys started to go down with heat exhaustion. It's probably the best term to put it. It's beyond saying I'm just too hot to fight or I don't feel like fighting. It's to the point where guys are completely incomprehensible and they cannot physically get up and carry on due to the heat. And it's a terrible sight at any time to see a guy go through that, but especially when you're being fired upon, it's even worse. So by the time we eventually got up to the school, we'd actually left pockets of guys behind that couldn't carry on, and obviously with enough security, with the understanding that reserves from the rear would come up and pull them back. We got to the school. We got in the north part of the school, and we took the two buildings there. There was 14 of us that made it there. And out of the 14, Delaire was down with a wound. He was fine at the time, but well, we knew we couldn't linger on there. We had to get him out. By the time we got to school, there's a couple more guys down with heat exhaustion. I should say more than that actually, but things were not looking good. When you do a quick assessment there, we had taken the school, you know, under some good fire, but just we were running out of men to carry on, and actually ran out of men to even get us out of there. There just wasn't enough hands to carry the guys that needed help. So in the call for Reserve Force to come up and get these guys out of here, and I don't think, just looking back, I'm not sure if everybody had a good appreciation of where exactly we were. They knew we were in the school, and I told them we're in the north part of the school, but when you're physically talking about a building on the ground saying I'm in the north end, and you can't really get a grid for that and look on your map and accurately say they're right here, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, 100%. So I don't think they had a good idea of where exactly we were. And that's when things started to pick up quite a bit. A lot of rounds going down, RPGs. It was pretty intense, to say the least. And basically, as time crept, I was waiting for reserves to come up. Nobody was really coming, and I think there was some confusion there, exactly, as I touched on there, but time went on, and a couple more guys were going down with heat exhaustion. Delaire wasn't certainly picking up. The option wasn't there to move out. I asked for artillery support as well. There's some confusion with that as well too. I guess I'm not really going to get into that. We had some helicopter support as well, Apache helicopters. For some reason they weren't firing, they weren't picking the guys up, or they wouldn't fire. Obviously the labs couldn't come forward due to the IEDs. So there we were, holding the position. Afterwards it would be estimated between 150 to 200 Taliban. There's only 14 of us that were fighting them off, and effectively out of the 14 there's probably 7 that were functional, maybe. Then from a personal perspective there, the next thing I remember is a loud bang, and the gray, there was that gray and black dust cloud again, or smoke cloud, and this is smell of cordite, the smell that comes off ammunition and round. I'm telling you guys, you know what I'm talking about, but ringing in the ears for myself again, and I couldn't see my foot, but I knew something wasn't right with it, and something didn't feel right. Didn't exactly hurt at that time, but something didn't feel right. And that time I was talking on the radio, and the radio was gone after the blast, and looked around, and guys weren't in too good shape. Anyways, came on the radio after a retreat, and again, guys can talk about what went on there with themselves there, but it's, I remember talking on the radio, getting labs, needed the labs to get up there, or we were in for it. They were prodding pretty good, and we were all ready to make their sweep in. Is you know, how we look back and assess it then. It was just how things went down, that they're probably coming in for the kill if we didn't get some heavy support up front. And I don't, you know, to Kiwi's credit and Tony's credit there, I don't even think they waited for a higher authority to give them to go ahead to take the labs up. I remember hearing Kiwi's voice on the radio, and I know he was up there. You know, I know because just hearing your voice on the radio. I'm not sure really what else to add onto that, other than the fact that it was, for me, it's mixed feelings. It was a good day and a horrible day at the same time. The good being that you know, I had served with some pretty astonishing soldiers there. You know, Vaughn being one of them. The word consummate professional comes to mind. It was an honor to serve beside him, and you know, as well as everyone else who was up there in that school and everyone else who was watching our backs there. It was just, I think, a really good group of guys, and I think that was demonstrated by how we performed at the school, fighting 150 to 200 guys. There's talk out when it first was released. Unfortunately, at times soldiers can open their mouths and not always say the right things to describe, and unfortunately that took place, and I think the wrong impression of that day has been given out there. Those who were there know what went down that day. We weren't ambushed. We took the fight to the enemy just like we always did. We knew where they were, and we went after them, and that's just how it is. There's no other spin on that story. Obviously they inflicted casualties on us that day, but I can tell you right now, they were hurting a lot worse than we were. So I hope that kind of clears things up for people, and just to me, to look back on that day, to me was the epitome of what Canadians were doing on that tour. You know, they were fighting the good fight, and that's what we're there to do. That's our job as soldiers. And I'm just going to actually finish off right there by saying, again, the amount of honor and the amount of pride I feel having served that day with, you know, men in this room and the men that aren't here today. It means a lot, and I'll never forget those guys ever. And certainly we'll carry on the fight in their names, and we'll make sure that that gets done, because they didn't go for naught. And that's how I'm going to finish that off. So.
I think one of the important things to reiterate is the conditions of that day. Like Captain Hamilton said, it was extremely hot. Like it was sickening. The amount of heat. Our uniforms, we were soaked, just like we ran through a sprinkler or jumped in the shower with them on. And as we were going up there, we're not stupid. We're not going to run into 150 guys, 14 of us. We didn't realize there was that many at the time. And we made the right decision. We went in there, we were taking the fight to them. That was our mission. Our mission was to take that school, and that's what we were going to do. And it takes a certain type of person to pick themselves up and run towards a school and take the fight to them. And it takes a bigger person or a better person to motivate soldiers to do that. And that's what Vaughn was that day, and that's the gospel truth right there. I remember sitting along that wall, and I remember Captain Hamilton saying, "Okay, boys, next balance of the school." And Vaughn was the first one. He was with me. My group was the first group to go, and he was right beside me, and he was the one that was motivating us, saying, "All right, boys, pick yourselves up. Here we go. We got Warren McDonald and the other section was back them. They're going to support us in. They're going to shoot us in there, and we're going." And it takes a pretty special person to do that. And if it wasn't for people like that, I don't know if I would have picked myself up that day and made that run or not. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't have, but I guarantee you that with words coming out of his mouth, and the first thing that he said was, "Right, we got a job to do, we're going to do it." And that's certainly what kept me going. And even when we were at the school, we were hurting. There was guys that were pretty much passed out because of the heat, like they were right out, and Vaughn was one of the guys making sure that we had our corners covered. We had guys in the corners. They were shooting, they were doing their job. Him and Captain Hamilton were on the radio trying to get us everything that we could. We were trying to make a plan to get out of there. We were trying to do everything that we could in order to keep ourselves safe there. And then that takes a special type of person, a special type of leader, to be able, under those circumstances, to say, "All right, boys, this is what we're going to do." Because not everyone can do that.
You led by example.
Yeah.
That's probably sums it up to the best.
And I'll just add a couple things from my perspective. One is after the boys got hit, and we had I believe it was 3 killed in action and 7 wounded. So there's 4 or 5 of us left that weren't hurt, that were able to fight still. And Captain Hamilton obviously was hit. It was probably, it probably doesn't seem that long, but in my own personal estimation, about 45 minutes before the labs got there. So we were fighting these guys off for another 45 minutes and trying to do first aid on our buddies, and trying to gather all the gear together and get the machine guns out and cover the angles like Austin was saying. And that was something that was really difficult. A couple of the guys that we patched up, they had the fight in them. And I think a lot of that was due to Vaughn and myself. They were asking for their weapons, and give us our weapons, we're patched up, we'll go back out and fight. For me, a big reason for that is when Vaughn actually got hit. He had a field dressing out, and he was trying to dress a wound on another soldier that was nowhere near as bad as he was. And he wasn't doing too much, but he was doing something. And a lot of pride for the man at that point in time. And that kind of behavior, basically, in my eyes, is guys just went, wow. He knew he wasn't doing good. And he was trying to help the guys around him. I think that kept a lot of us going. And I know what kept me going, because it was a really hard situation to deal with. When I came around that wall, and I saw basically just, you know, a lot of guys that were really messed up. And I looked back at the boys and I said, you know, put a fresh magazine on your weapon. You know, get a fresh belt of ammo for the machine guns, because my own personal estimate at the time was that we weren't going to make it out of there. You know, they're coming after us. They're throwing waves of troops at us to try and break our position and basically overrun us. And you know, I just didn't think we were going to make it, but you know, we had to do something. And Captain Hamilton was hit. He was down. Me and Austin were basically the two guys looking at each other going, okay, what do we do now?
You still have time to come through a tournament on me too. So.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
It was a hard day. It was a really hard day, and but it's like Captain Hamilton said, it was also a really good day. You know, we fought hard, and definitely there's more than one hero from that day. There's been basically one soldier recognized, Pat Tower, and he did a great job too. He showed up there with the medic about 20 minutes after all the boys were hit, and he had no idea what he was getting himself into. And when he got up there, he was like, oh, what's going on here? And you know, we told him what had happened, and you know, he did a really good job. He did a really good thing bringing those guys up there. And then of course, when Tony and Kiwi showed up, I was talking to him on the radio. I don't think that anybody realized the scope of the situation at the time. And then when they showed up, I was never so happy to see two guys in my life in their lab vehicles. You know, there was bullets skipping off the ramp. There was bullets flying off the turrets. And, you know, they didn't move. They were like bricks. They just stayed there and said, okay, get the wounded guys in. We'll get the guys that have been killed, we'll get them in the other vehicle, and, you know, we'll get you guys out of here because you've done enough. And that's basically what we did. You know, we ended up losing the school that day, and lost some good friends in the process. But I feel exactly the same way Captain Hamilton does. There's not a day goes by I don't think about it, and there's not enough words to express the pride or the camaraderie I feel for the guys that I was with fighting that day.
I look at this event and I'm not sure why more people don't know exactly what happened that day, or why it's not a little more, why people aren't looking into it a little bit more. Maybe it'll come. I think it's one of those events that years down the road maybe they'll dig this tape out, you know, when we're enjoying our grandchildren or great-grandchildren, and have another look at her there and say, hey, you know, this is maybe something that, you know, we missed back in the old days in Afghanistan there. A lot of fighting went on, a lot of guys did a lot of good things, and we saw a lot of it the last month there, about every other day, and you know, as much as a lot of people, you know, the 9th platoon and the Burgeo platoon there that last month, all over the place, and saw a lot of fighting, but I think that day kind of, a lot came out of that day. A lot came out of that day, so, you know, I hope people will look back at this someday and reflect on it and realize what went on that day. And I guess in the end, it really only matters, guys in this room, you know, everybody knows what went on that day, the truth that went on that day, and what really happened, and they know who's who, and you know, and that's the important thing. So, anything else to add?
No, it's being pretty much covered. Everybody knows Vaughan had a very contagious personality. Like, you spent 5 minutes with Vaughan, you're calling everybody Jed. It just happens. And when myself and Tony pulled up to the school, I could have sworn Vaughan was still alive just from the way everything was so controlled, and how they got in the car, how they dealt with the wounded. You know, it was like, yeah, Vaughan's still alive, he's still running this show. Because his personality and the way he performed had been rubbed off on the other people he'd worked with over his career, right? So when we got back to the aid station and we started pulling the guys out of the back and actually saw Vaughn there, then it was like, oh, yeah, well, let's get back there, let's get some more of these guys and make amends for what happened to him type thing. And yeah, it's hard to talk about. Myself and Tony didn't see too much of the battle because we're in the labs. No idea what happened in the school when the RPG hit. All we know is that when they needed help, I remember talking with Tony on the radio, and we asked the CO, I said, yeah, we're good to go. And all the CO said was, right, good luck. And we went, and the guys talk about the sweet sound of the labs, but I tell you what, there's nothing better than watching your guys come out of the building after seeing the rocket hit the building and seeing guys still moving, and that's the sweetest thing. So, that's pretty much all I got.
This concludes our program for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night.